The joke came easily to Lena. It always had. The wedding dinner was warm and crowded, full of soft music, candlelight, and the low murmur of people trying to impress new relatives. I had taken a seat near the end of the long table, close enough to be polite, but far enough to avoid attention. Blended families have a way of quietly assigning roles. Lena had always been the bright center of everything. I had learned, over time, how to sit comfortably at the edges. When Lena stood to introduce people to the groom's family, the room naturally leaned toward her. She raised her glass and smiled in that confident way that made people feel like they were part of something important. "This is my mom," she said, gesturing warmly. "And my dad." Polite nods followed, then her hand drifted in my direction. "And this," she added lightly, "is my stepsister." Several people looked over with polite curiosity. Lena gave a quick laugh and said, "She's just a useless nurse." A few people chuckled automatically. The kind of laughter people give when they assume something must be funny. I kept my hands folded in my lap. Hospitals teach you a certain kind of stillness. In emergency rooms, when families panic or when fear fills a room, someone has to remain calm. After years of night shifts and difficult conversations, it had become instinct. So I stayed quiet. Lena moved on, introducing cousins and childhood friends. The moment seemed ready to disappear into the background of the evening. But someone spoke. "Wait." The voice came from across the table. The groom's father had been sitting quietly until then. A tall man with silver hair and the steady posture of someone used to being listened to. He was looking directly at me. "You're a nurse?" he asked. "Yes," I said. He studied my face carefully. "Do you work at Westbridge Hospital?" "I do." His expression changed slightly, as if a memory had just surfaced. "Were you working there last November?" he asked. I nodded. The room had grown strangely quiet. He leaned forward a little. "There was a patient scheduled for heart surgery," he said slowly. He was terrified the night before. Couldn't stop thinking about what might happen. A memory surfaced in my mind immediately. A late shift. A dim hospital room. A man gripping the edge of his bed, as if the floor might disappear. He had asked if someone could sit with him for a while. I had stayed. The groom's father stood up. "That patient was me," he said. The room went completely still. "I remember that night very clearly," he continued. "My family wasn't allowed in yet. I thought I might not wake up after surgery." His eyes moved briefly around the table before returning to me. "You stayed long after your shift ended," he said. "You sat there and talked about ordinary things. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to make the room feel less frightening." No one laughed now. "There's nothing useless about that," he said calmly. The words settled heavily across the table. I felt a little warmth rise to my face from the sudden attention. "It's part of the job," I said quietly, and it was. Nurses sit beside people in moments like that every day. Most of those moments are never remembered outside the hospital walls. He shook his head gently. "Maybe," he said. "But it mattered." He sat down again. The dinner continued, but the tone had shifted. Conversations returned slowly, softer than before. A few guests asked small questions about the hospital. Nothing dramatic, just quiet curiosity. Lena didn't look at me for the rest of the meal, not angrily, just uncertain. Later, as people began moving toward the ballroom for music and dancing, I stood to leave the table. The groom's father passed beside me and paused. "Thank you," he said quietly. I nodded. Outside, the evening air felt cool and quiet. The celebration continued inside, but I stood for a moment on the steps before walking to my car. For years I had accepted the role my family gave me, the background presence. The easy joke, but tonight something had shifted. Not in them, in me. The work I did had always mattered. whether anyone at a wedding table understood it or not.